everyone else going, welcome back to another Walking Dead video. So in this one here, I wanted to do a Q&A video. It's been a while since I've actually done a Q&A video. So yeah, I wanted to answer your guys' questions. And also we have a little bit of an update on the Walking Dead Dead City. So I'll talk about that here, but it could be an update, but it might not be an update. But we'll get into that in a second. So before we go any further, obviously make sure to be a subscriber if you want to get all of my Walking Dead content like this. And yes, yesterday I did say that we were going to do the birthday stream, but it just ended up not being able to happen just because, I mean, obviously I have 3 kids, right? And I have them almost all the time. And it's hard to do live streams, right? And so yesterday I thought that I would have like an hour or so to myself. So I was like, okay, I'll stream then. But then, yeah, it just didn't end up happening. But Thursday for sure. So tomorrow evening, I'm not entirely sure of the time, but tomorrow evening for sure, I will be able to actually stream live here on YouTube. So I'll be doing that. It'll be the birthday stream. And yeah, we'll talk Walking Dead. We'll talk basically everything. So yeah, stay tuned for that. But I want to get into the Q&A video here. First of all, thank you guys so much for posting all of your questions. Like I always say, if you do want to actually take part in these Q&As, go and join the Discord. The server name's Appetite for the Dead. I'll leave a link down below in the description of this video. I do these every single Wednesday. I missed a couple of Wednesdays in the off season just because, I mean, the schedule is always kind of everywhere right now. But since it is June and things are going to start to ramp up here with Daryl Dixon, you know, premiering this weekend, and then we have Comic-Con next month, I'm going to start to do breakdowns of older episodes and obviously cover a lot more of the news and do more videos here. So the Q&As definitely will be a thing every single Wednesday. So yeah, it's a lot of fun. So actually, before we get into the first question, I totally forgot to address this here. The update that I wanted to talk about here was what I've been seeing people just sort of post online, and that is that The Walking Dead Dead City Season 2 may actually only be 6 episodes, and that's because it's now June 5th, right? And I believe they're filming until the end of July, and I don't remember when they started. It was like mid to late April, but I think they've been filming for like a month and a half or something like that anyways. And obviously, you know, if they're on episode 3, and if they're, you know, if it's taken a month and a half to do it 3 episodes, then, you know, with a month and a half filming left, it almost makes sense that they would be doing like another 3 episodes. So it would only be 6 episodes. And so that's sort of what people are kind of, you know, thinking right now, is that this may only be 6 episodes instead of the 8 episodes. And so I guess that is a possibility. It really depends. Like sometimes it does take them like, you know, 2 weeks to film an episode. Like sometimes it's very fast, but it's, I don't know. Like, I think it is still possible. Like, they could fit it all in, but I also just kind of, I don't see it unless filming does get extended or there's like different plans, right? Like maybe there's just something that, you know, we're still waiting to see sort of thing. But the reason why we got the whole thing of 8 episodes is because of Kim Coates. Kim Coates obviously is playing Bruegel in The Walking Dead Dead City Season 2. And he mentioned in an interview that, you know, there was going to be 8 episodes or whatever of Season 2. There was also a tweet where he said that, you know, his character does a lot or whatever in like 5 out of the 8 Season 2 episodes. So I look at that and I'm like, well, that's 2 times, right? Like 2 instances where he actually mentions 8 episodes, unless he's getting, you know, I guess the episode count wrong, which I don't think he would. I mean, maybe it's a possibility, I guess, right? But yeah, I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. So that's sort of the thing right now, that people are thinking that maybe it is only 6 episodes instead of the 8 episodes, which definitely, if that is the case, that is very disappointing because it needs to have 8 episodes. And so to me, though, I do think that, like, if this is only 6 episodes, and I think a lot of fans are going to be very disappointed with it, that AMC is going to hear that and they're going to be like, okay, so I guess maybe we should do 8 episodes. And then so, you know, with The Walking Dead Daryl Dixon Season 3 and then Dead City Season 3, they'll probably do 8 episodes then, right? So it depends on what they had planned. It depends on the story and all of that. But, you know, he's been mentioning 8 episodes, and yeah, we'll have to wait and see if this actually, you know, ends up being the case here. We should find out some information very, very soon. Like, we'll for sure know very soon. So, yeah, just a little bit of an update there. We'll have to wait and see. But let's get into the first question here. Q&A, if you could rewrite the last episode of The Ones Who Live, how would it look like? Example, Alexandria gets bombed, Rick dies, etc. You know, I think that it's so hard to say how I would rewrite the whole thing because of the newer direction of what they've been talking about here, you know, with, or at least Andrew Lincoln has been talking about, you know, he would like The Walking Dead to go in more of a simplistic survival horror, you know, sort of area and just focus more on that. So, you know, in that case, like ending the CRM arc, I kind of agree with. So it's like, you know, if that means that they're going back to that, then yeah, I totally am okay with them killing off Major General Beale and I guess ending the CRM arc. I think what I would just do, though, is honestly, like, it's so everything felt so rushed. Like, you definitely need more episodes. Like, I just think, having our characters really be able to achieve everything constantly and really make it look very easy is something that I'm not the biggest fan of, because it really felt like that. Like, the first 2 episodes of The Ones Who Live, we saw Rick and Michonne struggling, and that was like, honestly, the first 2 episodes are probably my favorite, just because we saw them struggling and going through all this, and it just felt more realistic to the whole situation. And then, once they get together in episode 3, and then all of a sudden it was just like, well, now everything became very, very easy, right? And that's sort of the whole thing. I think the explosion of everything at the very end is something that I probably wouldn't have done. I wouldn't have wiped out all of the, frontliners in that way. I think I would have made it more of a character thing there with Major General Beale, built up more of that, built up some more of the echelon briefing and all that. And maybe you still kill him off in that scene, but maybe there's more, stuff to it where Rick gets taken in afterwards, but then, the Pacific Republic Council finds out everything, and then, that sort of ends that. I think the explosion of all of it and everything just kind of made it seem really, I don't know, kind of insane. And I just think that's the part where everyone kind of was like, wait, what? Right? I don't think anyone liked that. So, or I'm not going to say anyone, but I think a lot of people just, did not like that. So I would rewrite a lot of that. And the reunion scene at the end, I would make more characters be there, and I wouldn't have it happen in a field. And just have those scenes a lot longer. Honestly, just make the episode like 20 minutes longer, and I think I would have been, much happier with the episode. Q&A. What's your favorite and least favorite episode of Fear the Walking Dead? Oh man, that's such a hard thing to say, because I don't even really remember the show that much. Like I don't remember the first 3 seasons that much. Like, well, I guess the very first episode I really liked. Like, I really enjoyed the very first episode of Fear the Walking Dead, because it felt like an actual spin-off that was so different from The Walking Dead. Honestly, that first season was great. That first episode was just really amazing to be introduced to, all of the characters, and it just felt like a totally different story. It was like, I mean, yes, it was going to be the same story, but it was different. It did actually feel different, right? So I think that one would be my favorite. In terms of the worst episode, there's too many episodes to really choose there. Like, I really would have to look at everything. Like, season 8, there was a lot at the end that were really bad. Season 7 as well. Season 4 and 5, though, there was some really bad episodes. And I think maybe the season 5 finale, because I know that there was a lot of logic in that episode that was frustrating, with the cliffhanger of what happened to Morgan, and just like everything, like nothing really made a lot of sense there. And I remember that was the low point with Fear the Walking Dead. I think by the time the show ended, people were just thankful. Like, finally, this show's over, right? So I think that season 8, even though there was a lot of issues, people weren't so angry with it. But with season 5, this was coming off of season 4 that was already, had very mixed reviews after, killing off Nick. I know the actor wanted to get off the show, so that's fine. But you killed off Madison as well a couple of episodes later. So that was kind of, I don't get why they did that, right? And the show changed entirely after that. I mean, I guess it changed beforehand, but there was already like this sort of, people felt very angry about that throughout season 4. Then in season 5, I think people were willing to be like, well, let's see where this goes. And then just by the finale, it just got really bad. And that was the first time where I saw people getting really mad at the showrunners for Fear the Walking Dead. And so I think that episode probably would have to be the least favorite episode, because at that point, it, like, The Walking Dead has had low points. After Carl's death was definitely a low point. Like, I think that was worse than Glenn's death, because Carl's death was just like, well, no, you don't kill off Carl, right? Like, Glenn, we all kind of expected it. There was the cliffhanger. There was how insane the scene was and all that. But, like, we kind of all expected it because of the comic. But killing off Carl was just totally different. And, that was a low point. But Fear the Walking Dead, that was really bad. I've never seen a show get that bad. So I'd probably have to say that one. Q&A. Since The Walking Dead Daryl Dixon Season 2 will only have 6 episodes again, and with Carol returning, do you think the story of Season 2 could be rushed, due to Carol having her own story and the already existing story arc, etc.? And could it lead to characters like Isabel, Laurent, Sylvie to be backseated in the story because of the focus on Carol now? Backseated as in not so much fleshing out of the characters, quality screen time, contributions to the story, etc. I see what you mean there. I think that Carol is just going to join that story, and then there will be another sort of side story where Carol's trying to get Daryl to come back home, but then he can't really come back home. Because Daryl's story as well, like, what is Daryl's story right now? He chose to not go back home, right? So that's sort of like when Carol gets there to try bring him back home, her and Daryl's story are kind of the same story in some sense. She might have news. I'm assuming she's going to have news of Rick coming back home. So there's sort of that, but there's also the stuff of what they're dealing with. So I think that they're not going to really have, they're not going to be in the background of all of that. Like, I think that, Isabel, Laurent, Sylvie, they're still going to be, a big part of the story, or at least a big part, similar to what they had in season 1. So I think maybe the first episode, though, is going to be focused more on Carol, but I think that, at that point, she kind of deserves it as well because, she's an original character and a lot of people miss her. She's been gone for a very long time. Like, yes, we've seen footage with her. She was technically at the end of Daryl Dixon season 1, but that's not really her return. Like, she hasn't really had a storyline or like, she hasn't been there in the story really. So for sure in season 2 is going to be like her real return, and it's going to be like a real return that has taken, almost close to 2 years, I feel like. So it's gonna feel really amazing. And so I think that, yeah, you do got to give her a really big portion of that story to tell how she does get to France. Because I also feel like if you don't do that, then people are going to be like, wait, why didn't you do that? Like, obviously she's a big character. She should get a lot more screen time, right? And you should really go in depth and explain how she got to France. So yeah, I think after that, that's where things will start to, it'll just be sort of one big story with some, like side plots kind of thing. Q&A. Do you think that they should have showed Rick visit Carl's grave, or showed Judith running to Rick holding the wooden board with her and Carl's handprint in it in the finale? That would have definitely been really cool. I just think that by the time they got there, it was a budget thing. Like, that's kind of my, issue with the explosions and wiping out of the CRM and just sort of where they went in the finale is like, they wasted so much of the budget there that they couldn't really do a lot of other things like that, right? And obviously, in terms of filming, though, Alexandria is taken down, so they can't really go back there and like film anything like that. I think that if they ever go back to Alexandria to do something like that, it's going to be for an endgame thing, and they just took it down. So I'm expecting something like that where Rick goes and sees Carl's grave and all that. That's going to happen in like 4 or 5 years from now. It's going to be something where it's been a good distance since they took down the set where it makes sense to just rebuild it again, right? Just because otherwise they wouldn't have taken it down, right? So I think that's where they'll probably do something like that. But you also gotta, like question the whole thing of like, is there a point to living in Alexandria, right? Like, does Rick really consider that his home? I don't know if he really does, because there's the Commonwealth now, and Rick has been living somewhere else technically at the CRM for a very long time, right? So I think they'll probably just live at the Commonwealth, or they'll just live somewhere else that's safe, like just somewhere out there, just somewhere like anywhere, so I don't know if we're ever going to really see Alexandria again. And I do think that's probably one thing they need to sort of, I guess discuss a little bit. Like, Dead City did do that a bit, I guess. Like, Dead City did get into the fact that the bricks, they went there and they did all that because the hilltop was just, at a point where they couldn't save it. So the hilltop at this point is just gone. I still have some questions there, but Alexandria, I think they do need to kind of go more in depth there and sort of explain anyways, just like what happened to it, who's still there kind of thing. And just sort of make sense of a lot of that. Q&A, do you think Heath was one of Beale's spies? No, I don't. I don't think so. I think the whole thing with Beale's spies, honestly, I think is going to come up at some point in the future, but it's going to take some time. That's a newer thing that maybe is connected with a triple P card. The whole triple P card thing is something that they're going to be getting into probably very soon, because Gimple teased it. He was talking about it a lot. Like, and he was almost like bringing it up. Like, people would question him about it, obviously, but he would talk about it a lot during all the promotion and all that for The Ones Who Live. So I'm trying to think of where that story would make sense. And Daryl Dixon season 2 kind of makes sense. If not in season 2, then in season 3. Because they are supposed to start filming season 3 this month, I believe. So at any point now, there's going to be a lot of that. And we'll just have to wait and see, I guess, what happens there, like with the story and all of that. And it's going to be very interesting with Daryl Dixon season 3, especially because of the spoilers and all that online. It's so hard to avoid. Like, the last couple of seasons of The Walking Dead, I felt like it was very easy to avoid because there wasn't a lot of interest. But with the spinoffs, people seem to really care about the filming, and they're always there. They're watching the set and all that. And so if there's certain actors that aren't there or are there, it almost spoils it, right? Like, if Madame Genet is there for filming of season 3, then we know she doesn't die in season 2, right? So there's a lot of little things like that, and yeah, it's one of those things that it is just sort of hard to avoid spoilers, I feel like, nowadays, and you just kind of have to do your best and try to avoid it, but it's you know, it is what it is. So anyways, I'm gonna leave it here. Hope you guys all enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys in the next one.